It's the year 1400, and you've just been told to deliver a package to a city 40 miles away. You have never been there, and here's the problem. Nobody can show you where it is. There are no road signs, no street addresses, no maps, not for you anyway. The road outside your village just goes somewhere. Your entire navigation system is the sentence, "Follow the road, then ask." And yet, people traveled. Merchants crossed continents, pilgrims walked thousands of miles, armies found other armies. Somehow, everyone got everywhere, without ever seeing the world from above. Because here's the wild part. For most of history, most people never saw a map in their lives. Not once. The pocket map you check without thinking is, historically, about one human lifetime old, and GPS barely 25 years. So how did anyone find anything? With memory, words, stars, and an absolutely heroic amount of asking. First, let's clear something up. Medieval maps existed, they just weren't for travel. The famous mappa mundi in Hereford Cathedral puts Jerusalem at the center of the world and decorates the edges with monsters. It's not navigation, it's a religious infographic. Beautiful, useless for finding the next town. What travelers actually used were itineraries, written lists of places in order with distances. London to Rome was a column of 40 town names. The Romans even drew them as long strip charts. The Peutinger Table squashes the entire empire into a ribbon. Geographically absurd, practically perfect. You've seen this design before. It's a subway map. Out on the road, the landscape itself was the map. Church spires, visible for miles, were waypoints. Bells told you direction in fog. A burned oak, a triple fork, an old gallows. Every landmark had a name, and every local knew the sequence. And mostly, you asked. Navigation was a relay of human beings. You walked to the edge of what one person knew, then asked again. Directions came in the famous format, left at the dead tree that burned down before you were born. People got lost. A lot. If the journey actually mattered, money, war, your immortal soul, you hired a guide or joined others. Pilgrim roads to Santiago even had a 12th century guidebook listing safe rivers, dangerous ferrymen, and which locals, quote, are not to be trusted. The first travel reviews. At sea, the rules changed, because the sea has no landmarks. Solution 1. Never leave it. For thousands of years, ships hugged the coast, hopping headland to headland, measuring depth with a rope and a lump of lead. Then, in the 1200s, something strange appears. Portolan charts. Sea maps of the Mediterranean so accurate they look computer-generated, drawn centuries before anyone could verify them from above. Historians still argue about how sailors got them so right. Nobody fully knows. Speed was measured by throwing a log overboard, tied to a rope with evenly spaced knots, and counting how many slipped through your hands. Count the knots, get your speed. Which is why, to this day, a ship's speed is measured in knots. Direction came from the sky. The North Star sits at an altitude equal to your latitude, so sailors could read, "How far north am I?" straight off the horizon, with 2 fingers and an instrument made of wood. The Vikings crossed the open Atlantic with a sun compass, legends of a crystal sunstone that reportedly found the sun through clouds, and at least once with ravens. The explorer Flóki released them and followed the one that flew toward land. It found Iceland. But the greatest navigators in human history never used a map at all. Polynesian wayfinders crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific in canoes, reading 200 memorized stars, the angle of ocean swells against the hull, and the flight paths of birds at dusk. They found islands the size of a parking lot in an ocean covering a third of the planet. They even built charts, webs of sticks and shells encoding swell patterns, but used them only for teaching on land. The real map lived in the navigator's head, passed down as chance. A GPS made of poetry and physics. In Australia, Aboriginal songlines encoded entire continental routes as songs. Sing the verses in order, and the lyrics walk you from waterhole to waterhole across a desert. The melody was the map. It worked for tens of thousands of years. And then, within one generation, all of it, every skill on this list, became unnecessary. In the year 2000, the United States switched GPS to full accuracy for everyone. Satellites now whisper your position to your pocket 24 times a second for free. The blue dot ended 4,000 years of craft in about a decade. Paper maps went from essential to decorative, the mappa mundi's revenge. Today, the most common navigation skill is trusting the arrow. We don't follow roads anymore, we follow instructions. Humanity's oldest puzzle is now an app permission. Here's what that swap cost. London taxi drivers memorized 25,000 streets. They call it the knowledge. And neuroscientists found their hippocampus, the brain's memory center, physically grows from it. Navigation isn't just a skill, it's exercise for a brain region. Studies on GPS users show the opposite. Follow the blue dot, and that same region quiets down. Your ancestors held a living model of their world in their heads. We hold a phone. The brain hasn't changed, the workout stopped. And one human experience has quietly gone extinct, being truly lost. Not no signal lost, actually, completely nobody knows where you are lost. For your ancestors, it was a mortal terror. You will likely never feel it once. That's mostly wonderful. The trade was worth it. Search and rescue, strangers finding hospitals, no one's grandmother stranded at night. But it's worth knowing what was traded. A sense. The oldest one we had after sight. So, next time you walk somewhere familiar, try it the old way. Phone in pocket, spire on the horizon. The stars still work, by the way. They've been the backup system for 10,000 years, and they've never once needed an update. If you enjoyed this, you'll want to know what people used before toilets existed, and trust me, it's worse than you think. Subscribe so you don't miss it.